Aoba, a weak and sickly kid with asthma, leads the life of a social outcast, with no friends in sight. He even gets beaten up regularly by a bully in his class. One day, a knight in shining armor, a student named Kenshin, appears. Kenshin, using his exceptional fighting abilities, knocks down the bully in a single punch, saving Aoba. But in a hilarious plot twist, it seems like Aoba didn't really want to get saved, at least by Kenshin. He apparently hates Kenshin's guts and his kind nature. And so, he plans to team up with his bully to punch his savior for some weird reason. Is he a nutcase? Is there a method to his madness? Stay tuned to find out. On a regular old day, we spot this kinda gloomy dude named Aoba, glued to the TV, watching a reality show featuring Kenshin Akasawa, a high school freshman who's become the talk of the town for his epic MMA skills. The show aims to spill the beans on Kenshin's life, showing his charming side and his passion for the sport. Somehow, Mr. Gloomy here watches this awe-inspiring show all with eyes as empty as the void. The next day at the local high school, child prodigy Kenshin struts to class, everyone ready to throw congrats at him for his big TV debut. Sensing the support of his fellow peers, Kenshin is left touched and exclaims that he will one day become the champion of Japan. Lo and behold, Aoba's a student there too. As Kenshin and his crew laugh it up, this tough-looking blondie named Iwase from the neighboring class gets all annoyed. And learning Kenshin's a national champ, well, that's the last straw. Turns out, this blondie does MMA too, though not as big and successful as Kenshin. And he's blaming his inadequacies on Kenshin's fancy gym versus his near-collapse-worthy scummy one. Try and cope harder, why don't you? Pissed but determined, Iwase decides to blow off some steam and drags an easy target, aka Aoba, behind the building for a little play. There he starts beating down on poor Aoba, chalking it up to be a game. Surprisingly, Aoba takes it like a champ, catching Iwase by surprise, who even gives him kudos and deems his toy worthy of trying out his best move. However, out of nowhere, Kenshin pops up. He apparently saw Aoba getting dragged and decided to play the hero. In a menacing tone, he claims that he has heard Iwase likes picking on weaker guys. Of course, Iwase tries to act innocent, all the while crapping his pants, but Kenshin isn't buying it. Quick as a flash, he lands a solid body shot, and Iwase crumples like he met the Grim Reaper. With this, Kenshin lets the other delinquents off with a warning, telling them never to do such a thing again or else, and takes Aoba back with him, telling him to hit him up if those ever bullies mess with him again. As they both chill and chat on the staircase, Kenshin slowly comes to realize that they were in the same class in elementary school, though he kind of forgot. There, Aoba notes Kenshin hasn't changed, always full of energy and the center of attention. On the other hand, ever since they were little, Aoba has been dealing with bad health and stayed on the sidelines. Kenshin drops some life wisdom on him, urging him to find a goal. But for now, he gives Aoba a crash course in throwing a punch so that he can defend himself. While Aoba is mindlessly punching air, he reflects on how Kenshin's always been a bit much for him. Even in high school, separate classes kept them apart, and Aoba thought he could avoid Kenshin. Well, at least all this happened. But hey, all he has to do now is tolerate Kenshin until his punching class is over, and they will probably never talk again, right? Then Kenshin drops a bomb. He invites Aoba to his gym, saying he'll train him. In Kenshin's eyes, he pities Aoba, seeing him as kinda empty and lacking a dream. But these words hit a nerve in Aoba all his life. Aoba has faced hardships because of his unfortunate health. Sick, weak, and dreamless. But what's wrong with that? He questions. Rage builds, and he lunges at Kenshin. But instead of landing a hit, he hits a punch to the face. Kenshin, who counterattacked intuitively, immediately panics and asks if Aoba's okay. But Aoba, bleeding and all, apologizes. He spills the truth, revealing Kenshin's never-ending joy bugs him. And those words about dreams just made him want to throw fists. Kenshin's thrown off by this perspective, making Aoba pretty sure Kenshin just doesn't get him. But Kenshin, in his eternal positivity, claims that Aoba has at least found a dream to punch Kenshin. Hearing this, Aoba is left disillusioned, sure he can't stand this guy. The day after, the whole school is buzzing about Kenshin's recent interview. He's joined Boost, the grand MMA event in Japan, and he's the youngest ever to step into the ring. Kenshin's interview exudes confidence, and the students are quick to notice his unwavering demeanor. Meanwhile, in a distant corner of the class, sulking at his desk, is Iwase, still reeling from his humiliating defeat yesterday. To make matters worse, even the other students have heard about his loss, and he discovers that his so-called friends were the ones spreading the news. Annoyed beyond measure, he broods over becoming the bad guy, blaming his lack of talent for the defeat. Adding to his worries, he fears a guy named Takiwa discovering the incident and seeking to punish him. As the students continue to badmouth Iwase, the gutsy Aoba, with balls of steel, approaches him, suggesting another rendezvous behind the gym today. Iwase is visibly perplexed, wondering why his victim is here talking to him, but Aoba continues to push him, drawing the attention of others. Irritated, Iwase storms out of class, dragging Aoba along with him to the rooftop. There, he bluntly tells Aoba to steer clear of him, and in return, he won't bother him either. But Aoba, fueled by his steel balls, refuses, declaring that he wants to play with the blonde delinquent. Hearing this, Iwase is left dumbfounded, questioning why the bully kid wants to hang out with the bully. To him, Aoba should be ecstatic that Kenshin knocked him out, but Aoba reveals that's far from the truth. In fact, he can't stand Kenshin's guts, a sentiment Iwase can't wrap his head around. How can a lovable guy like Kenshin, who literally saved Aoba from being bullied, be hated by the person he was protecting? As Iwase struggles to make sense of the conversation, he notices the bruise on Aoba's face. Recalling yesterday, he asks what happened since he didn't even hit Aoba in the face. There, Aoba explains that after Iwase was knocked out, he tried to punch Kenshin, but he was counterattacked instead. Moreover, Aoba drops a bomb, announcing that he and Iwase are quite similar. They both hate Kenshin. Aoba, after having put the puzzle pieces together, figures out Iwase only ever brought him behind the gym whenever others were boasting about Kenshin's achievements. Iwase's hard work in MMA was overshadowed by Kenshin's glory, bruising his pride. And so, Aoba concludes, by bullying me, you try to protect your own self-esteem. But this statement just doesn't sit right with Iwase, maybe because Aoba hit the nail on the head. And in a fit of fury, he angrily stands up, attempting to grab Aoba's collar. Nevertheless, Aoba dodges the attack swiftly, making Iwase even more furious. Overwhelmed by his bruised ego, Iwase unleashes a roundhouse kick. Mid-attack, he realizes it won't end well if it actually ends up connecting and it might knock Aoba out, but despite this, Aoba easily dodges it without breaking a sweat, circling behind Iwase in a split second. He then talks about how he, like Iwase, despises seeing Kenshin praised incessantly. Iwase, stunned by Aoba's evasion skills, realizes Aoba has gotten used to his moves, and Aoba even confirms this, revealing he took notes and went as far as to record Iwase's every move since he doesn't fancy pain much. Seeing this, Iwase snatches Aoba's notebook, discovering detailed records of all his movements and tricks. Aoba reveals that, due to his asthma, he's often absent from classes, leading him to take notes about his peers' habits. Despite this, he's always been a wallflower, waiting for others to approach him first. As a result, though it might be a sad thing to admit, Iwase is the closest thing he has to a friend. As such, he asks if Iwase will teach him how to fight so he can punch their mutual enemy. Distressed at being considered a friend by Aoba, Iwase gets back to the pressing matter. He's never kicked Aoba before, meaning Aoba must have been watching him during his sparring sessions with friends. Aoba admits he did and took notes. Iwase, grappling with this revelation, realizes Aoba has become a force to be reckoned with. To learn more, he asks about Kenshin, questioning what happened after he was brought to his knees, and Aoba reveals that Kenshin called him empty and dreamless, striking a nerve. Unlike Kenshin, who had dreams since childhood and gained fame pursuing it, Aoba's health issues prevented such a life for him. He just wanted to show up for school every day. This was enough to make him happy. This is his perspective, something Aoba wants Kenshin to understand. However, words won't cut it with him, and so Aoba's goal is clear. I want to show him with a punch that I'm not empty. Hearing all this, Iwase is stumped and deems that Aoba must have a few screws loose or something. But still, everything can be resolved if he just brings Aoba back to his gym. In a recent video, Kenshin, trying to show off, hits a punching machine and sets a new record, a score of over 400. Ever since that video, fans of Kenshin would come and see this spot in the arcade, and it just so happens that Iwase has come here to try it out as well, along with Aoba, who probably forcefully tagged along. But despite his best efforts, Iwase is not even able to get close to Kenshin's score. Though he is not satisfied with the result, Aoba is left impressed at how strong Iwase really is and applauds him, complimenting the fact he has reached the daily top rank. However, here Iwase is contemplating why Aoba is acting all buddy-buddy with him. Apparently, Aoba kept bugging him about learning to fight, but Iwase isn't really sure about how to do that. As such, today was a no-go, and Iwase decided to head to the arcade to kill some time. That is when Aoba tagged along. All this time, Iwase thought that just bringing Aoba to the gym would be enough. As a matter of fact, he hasn't been there for a while as well. Not only that, if Tokuwa somehow finds out Iwase lost to Kenshin, which would be his last day on this planet. Anyway, Aoba also tries out the machine, and after getting an abysmal score, suggests they move on to the next machine. Noticing just how excited Aoba is, Iwase is left taken aback and asks why he is so gung-ho. There, Aoba reveals that he has never been to an arcade in his life. Due to his asthma issues, his mom didn't really allow him to roam around and, out of worry, told him to come back home directly. To boot, in elementary school, everyone was just infatuated with Kenshin, whereas in middle school, he didn't even talk to anyone. And the result, a loner Aoba who was always alone. But despite this, he has always wanted to come to such places with friends, commenting on how cool it really is. He even comes up with a name for their Kenshin-hating team, the Anti-Kenshin Alliance. Obviously, Iwase doesn't even want to be associated with something as embarrassing as this branding and tells him to knock it off. In his mind, he thinks about how he has been carried away because of Aoba's way of speaking. The truth of the matter is that there is no way a weakling like Aoba could ever take on and win against Kenshin. Suddenly, his serious chain of thought is broken up when Aoba wants to take a few photos with him. And so, they have fun at the arcade, and Aoba thanks Iwase, claiming this has been the most fun he has had for a while. As they exit the building, Iwase, on the other hand, decides that it's just better if he shows Aoba the basics himself. Even if he does take him to the gym, what use will he be? But, as he tries to make plans for tomorrow, their conversation is stopped by the loud commotion caused by a group of thugs. With this uninvited noise and commotion, everyone is troubled, and even Iwase is annoyed, who notes that these guys are from Numahai. Nevertheless, Iwase decides to keep quiet, knowing that things could end badly if he acts out of line. But it looks like Aoba doesn't possess the same street smarts as his friend. Without a care in the world, Aoba begins cursing the thugs, calling them noisy and brain-dead. All the while, Iwase tries to stop him, trying to avoid a fight. But in the blink of an eye, one of the thugs jumps in and attacks Aoba, punishing him for his insolent words. Seeing this, Iwase hops over to Aoba, who just deems these thugs as mean people. Like that wasn't clearly obvious. But as things are, the thugs have the upper hand. It's a 2-on-4, and that too after being considerate and considering Aoba a 1. This makes Iwase think that they would be better off avoiding a fight, but out of nowhere, Aoba speaks up, claiming that they will not run away. Up until now, Aoba didn't actually think they lived in a world where brute force is necessary to get one's point across. Because of this, he understands he has been living life under protection, in a world far removed from the one Iwase lives in. But no more. With this, Aoba stands up, telling the thugs to bring it. Seeing his demeanor change in an instant, Iwase is left speechless. The weird guy that was alone in the corner of the class. The one who seemed like an alien even if you talked to him. Just how much has Aoba changed? Seeing him like this, Iwase also gets fired up. He wants to see just how far a nutcase like Aoba could go and stands up to fight off the thugs. Obviously, the thugs aren't having it, and one of them grabs Iwase by the collar. But all this does is make it easier for Iwase to kick his opponents behind. In the blink of an eye, he dislocates the thug's shoulder, causing him to get on his knees. Consequently, Iwase then brings things to an end with a swift kick to the head, leaving the other thugs watching in fear. And now, he decides to take Aoba to the gym at last. On the other hand, at the Shark Gym, aka Iwase's gym, a couple of new students who look like they have seen a ghost run out of the building, announcing that they will never be coming back. And it looks like they are running away from a rather dangerous-looking man who is not too happy about his students running off, but more so about the money he won't be getting from now on. Back in the dynamic duo's world, they make their way to the gym after tidying up the chaos they left behind. Aoba is bouncing around like a caffeinated kangaroo, thrilled that Iwase seems to be thawing out of his iceberg personality. His grand plan? Train like a maniac and, oh yeah, deliver a smackdown to Kenshin's face. As they stroll, Aoba's radar locks onto an MMA gym nearby. But alas, it's not just any gym, it's the swanky den of Kenshin, the nemesis. Iwase, the tour guide, dismisses it and leads them toward their humble destination. A building that could be mistaken for a forgotten treehouse. Down they go into the basement, where Iwase spills the tea onto Kiwa, the gym maestro with a stern "don't disrespect the teacher" warning. Turns out even Iwase is side-eyeing Kiwa's quirks. Approaching the gym, Iwase is hit with shock therapy. Where are all the other rookies? Meanwhile, Aoba is soaking in the eerily empty atmosphere like it's his favorite Netflix show. Kiwa, the elusive gym leader, is found, and surprise, is the same intimidating dude the kids were sprinting away from earlier. Oh, and he's snoring away in a drunken siesta. Iwase channels his inner Hercules to wake him, and Kiwa, with all the grace of a drunk flamingo, denies being intoxicated. Sure, buddy. New face alert. Kiwa, trying to pull off a sobriety act, inquires about Aoba's identity. Aoba, with a flair for introductions, steps up, while Iwase's main query revolves around the disappearing rookie squad. Kiwa confesses to scaring off the fresh meat during sparring, opting for liquid courage instead. Iwase plays the rational card, pointing out Kiwa's absurd approach. Kiwa defends himself, claiming he's just giving them a taste of the rocky road to glory. Now that the newbies have ghosted, the gym's rent hangs in the balance. Panic mode activated. Kiwa zeroes in on Aoba, promising to forge him into a steel-clad warrior. Kiwa tries to bond over MMA trivia, but little does he know, Aoba is as interested in MMA as a fish is in mountain climbing. Kiwa, undeterred, gives Aoba the MMA 101 spiel, using Iwase as a guinea pig for live demonstrations. MMA is the symphony of combat sports, where rules are suggestions and chaos is the main dish. Sweet talking ensues, and Aoba, mesmerized, signs up faster than you can say roundhouse kick. However, before the ink dries, Kiwa sniffs out the reason behind Aoba's sudden interest, a burning desire to punch Kenshin. Kiwa's inner storm cloud. Furious, he questions Aoba's audacity to challenge the child prodigy. Without waiting for a reply, he orders Iwase to gear up Aoba, declaring war on empty boasts in a volcanic eruption of rage. Kiwa, the once professional gym leader, transforms into a demon of discipline, proclaiming, "I'm gonna teach you MMA." As the not-so-subtle threat hangs in the air, both Iwase and Aoba contemplate investing in extra pairs of pants since they pee theirs. As Aoba finds himself on the brink of a nervous breakdown just contemplating the impending clash with Kiwa, Iwase, who's suddenly channeling his inner voice of reason, ironic how he is the responsible one here, decides to question the sanity of the entire plan. I mean, seriously, pitting a fresh-faced Aoba against Kiwa, especially when Aoba's fight experience is less than a kitten's experience with water. It sounds like a recipe for disaster. However, Kiwa has none of the reservations. He's got a burning desire to test Aoba's resolve, and the fact that Aoba has set his sights on such a lofty goal only makes him more irresistible. But hold on to your seats because, to everyone's surprise, especially Iwase, Aoba rises like a warrior ready for battle, paying his respects to his newfound sensei. He boldly declares that he wants to dive headfirst into the wild, unpredictable world that Iwase and Kenshin inhabit. Iwase, still grappling with a full-blown anxiety attack, is far from okay with this impromptu decision. Despite his yearning to witness Aoba in a full-on sparring session, he believes it's just too soon for the rookie to face such a seasoned opponent. And here's the twist in the tale. Kiwa, the seemingly random tipsy uncle, isn't just any old drunk guy. Oh no, my friends, he used to be Boost's top bantamweight fighter, a heavyweight in experience that a newbie like Aoba shouldn't take lightly unless he has a secret death wish. But guess what? Aoba seems to meet the criteria. Iwase reluctantly gives the green light for the two raging bulls to lock horns, not forgetting to ensure that Kiwa uses padded gloves. After all, who wants to waste time attending Aoba's hypothetical funeral later today, right? In the blink of an eye, the battlefield is set, and Iwase speedily glosses over the major rules. Basically, the don't hit where it hurts the most manual, no back of the head shots, and definitely no groin shots. With the ground rules out of the way, the intense round kicks off, and Kiwa, the maestro of mayhem, starts sizing up his opponent. Jabs and low kicks fly like confetti, unveiling Aoba's surprisingly nimble rookie reflexes, courtesy of Iwase and his unique brand of training, or as some might call it, bullying. Yet skill is just the appetizer in the banquet of becoming a champion. Takiwa, being the crafty veteran he is, cranks up the gears and pulls off a feint with a jab. And wouldn't you know it, Aoba falls for the oldest trick in the book, dodging the jab. Aoba finds himself arm-locked, unable to dodge, and then swiftly tasting the bitter medicine of a Takiwa cross. Takiwa, the MMA tactician, emphasizes the importance of adapting strategy on the fly, but the Grandmaster move, being able to take a hit without crumbling like a cookie. Aoba, in his quest to step into a world where it's either dance or get trampled, proves he's no run-of-the-mill rookie. Takiwa effortlessly pulls off a single-leg takedown, entering the mounted position on top of Aoba. As he stares into Aoba's soul, he declares that the resolve to embrace a good beating is a prerequisite in this brutal world. In the world of MMA, where new moves and techniques are as common as coffee stains on a writer's desk, the only way to win is to make opponents pass out, dislocate joints, or break bones. Yep, it's a sport where having a couple of screws loose might just be an advantage. As Takiwa dominates the position, Iwase, playing the role of the Doomsday Prophet, realizes this might just be the endgame. Aoba, unable to retaliate, shields himself from the impending blows, blaming himself for the unfortunate fall. But even in the face of defeat, Aoba's fighting spirit refuses to flicker out, peeking out from his defensive stance. Aoba catches Takiwa's eye. Takiwa, surprisingly impressed, commends Aoba for relentlessly searching for a path to victory. In a moment that feels like an eternity, Takiwa's years of indulging in liquid courage finally catch up with him. But burp escapes his lips, and in a twist of fate, Aoba sees this as his golden opportunity. Swiftly escaping the mounted position, he's ready to prove himself. Dropping into a karate stance, Aoba launches a straight punch towards Takiwa. However, Takiwa, being the slippery eel that he is, effortlessly dodges the attack. But here's the kicker. Takiwa has seen what he came for, aka Aoba's indomitable spirit. With a theatrical flair, Takiwa signals the end of the battle and moves in for the final blow. Employing a head and arm choke, he puts Aoba to sleep in the blink of an eye, all the while claiming that this boy might be better than he looks. While Takiwa's grip on Aoba tightens, Iwase takes on the role of a sports commentator, enlightening the poor rookie about the intricacies of Takiwa's chokehold. It's a masterclass in cutting off blood flow to the brain, a technique with the side effect of making you seriously question your life choices. Aoba, caught in the vice-like hold, is left grappling with the consequences of his brash decisions. His screams echo in the gym as he berates himself for falling short in proving his mettle. Despite his struggles, victory seems like a distant dream. In the midst of this grappling chaos, Iwase's voice pierces through Aoba's suffering, advising him not to be a stubborn idiot and to tap out. Ah, the sweet symphony of MMA lessons. The only thing is that Iwase has forgotten to actually teach Aoba what a tap is. A flashback to Aoba's childhood unfurls, a time when Kenshin, the eternal nemesis, invited him to play dodgeball. Young Aoba, frail and battling asthma, declined the offer. Little did he know, Kenshin's acceptance was nothing but a facade, masking his ignorance about Aoba's health condition. And thus, the seeds of Aoba's loathing for Kenshin were sown. Back to the present, Aoba's soul seems to be drafting a resignation letter from his body. Iwase instructs the inebriated Takiwa to release his grip, declaring the match over. Aoba, still unconscious, undergoes a rescue mission of sorts as Iwase elevates his legs to kickstart blood circulation. Meanwhile, Takiwa, in a bout of post-KO realization, regrets not completing the paperwork before testing his rookie's resilience. However, Takiwa is more intrigued about Aoba's skills, questioning Iwase about Aoba's surprising dodging skills and not-so-shabby karate stance punch. Iwase, caught in the crossfire of truth and embarrassment, spills the beans. Aoba, despite his rookie status, has a knack for evading kicks, due to being his sandbag and throwing decent punches, because he saw Kenshin take him down. As Aoba regains consciousness, he finds Iwase ensnared into Kiwa's leg lock, a painful reminder of the price one pays for picking on novices and getting beaten up when caught. Regardless, upon seeing Aoba return back on Earth, Takiwa, steering the conversation back on track, quizzes Aoba about joining the gym. Iwase, confident that Aoba has been traumatized enough to steer clear, reminisces about the first time he walked into the gym, a day when Takiwa, due to being injured, sparred with one hand and left only Iwase standing. The others, well, they fled like startled cats. However, the decision lies with Aoba, who contemplates the years Kenshin has spent honing his skills. Determined to catch up and overtake Kenshin, Aoba shifts his goal from merely punching him to relishing the sight of Kenshin's face twisted in frustration and signs up as fast as he can. With this, he hands in his paperwork. Hearing his resolve, Tokiwa once again claims Aoba is MMA material, proclaiming that one needs to be distorted himself in order to get involved in this violent sport. So in layman's terms, he is saying Aoba is a nutcase. And so, just as Tokiwa welcomes his new student, the pros also walk in. It is now their time to train. In addition, this is also the first time Aoba pros in the flesh. There, Tokiwa claims that although their gym isn't as clean as Kenshin's, they have some pretty good elements of their own. Seeing them all, Aoba realizes he is still but a child in front of them, and he still has a long path to take. But, unexpectedly, Tokiwa kicks into fifth gear and assigns Aoba's first fight to be quite literally next week. It all started with a phone chat between Yasuo Akasawa, father of the mini MMA maestro Kenshin, and Tokiwa. Quite visibly, Yasuo is giddy like a kid in a candy store, all hyped up about an upcoming gym meet, whereas Tokiwa couldn't seem to care less. But then, Yasuo, being the genius idea generator he is, suggested a thrilling 3 versus 3 team match between the newbies of both gyms. The catch? Selecting the 3 warriors for Kenshin's team became a headache because, let's face it, they had more eager young guns than a superhero audition. I guess having a child prodigy as a son sure brings in the crowd. Tokiwa, on the flip side, was scratching his head too since selecting rookies is going to be pretty difficult for him as well, seeing as he doesn't even have rookies to pick from. And so, Shark Gym has now found itself in the lineup dilemma for the Grand 3 versus 3 showdown. Surprise, surprise, Aoba got the nod as the vanguard. Why? Well, there wasn't a soul in the gym who could outshine him in the rookie department, since there are none. However, Iwase, ever the voice of reason, had a mini freak out about it. Putting a guy with only a week of training into the ring was like serving spaghetti with chopsticks. It just doesn't make sense. He turned to Aoba, offering him an out, saying he could refuse if he wanted. Cue dramatic pause. Aoba, with all the theatrics of a Shakespearean actor, started contemplating his fitness for battle. He hadn't even mastered the art of not tripping over his own feet yet. But Tokiwa, the smooth talker extraordinaire, reassured him that it wasn't about winning or losing. No, sir, it was all about getting Aoba cozy in the real match arena. Tokiwa spilled the beans, admitting he had no students to brag about to Yasuo. Sneaky, right? Aoba, with stars in his eyes, eventually buys into the persuasive spiel. Now, picture this. Tokiwa, the coach with more years in the game than a cat has lived, decides to get serious. He unveils Aoba's initiation into the world of MMA techniques. The one, the only, the basic yet lethal straight right. It's like MMA's ABCs. And Aoba's previous karate punch, let's just say it was more like a high-five attempt gone wrong. Tokiwa, with the flair of a magician revealing his best trick, breaks down the straight right, leaving no detail untouched. He can flaunt his own skills, leaving Aoba jaw-dropped and starry-eyed. Aoba, in a moment of clarity, notices Tokiwa's punches harmonizing with Kenshin's. What a symphony of violence. But Tokiwa, being the MMA Yoda that he is, takes it up a notch. He preaches that even with the basics down, Aoba needs to nail the art of distance, too early or too late with a punch, and it's like ordering pizza without cheese. A disaster. So, with a montage of training scenes set to upbeat music, Aoba dives headfirst into mastering the sweet science of punching people in the face. And then, Tokiwa unveils the master plan. Kenshin's gym is renowned for its striking, a legacy from its karate roots. Aoba, with his ultra instinct dodging skills, is tasked with evading attacks like a ninja in a laser-filled room. Patiently waiting for the perfect moment, he'll land a punch that's destined to make the opponent question their life choices. It's not just a strategy, it's a symphony of tactics, and Aoba is the lead conductor. More like the only way he can defeat his foe. In the midst of all this, Iwase wonders if they have intel on the opponents. Tokiwa, being the info guru, pulls out the list Yasuo sent. Lo and behold, a guy named Kota Tamamatsu is on Yasuo's roster. A newbie like Aoba, but with a whopping 3 months of training. A light bulb flickers in Aoba's memory. Kota, the steakhouse heir from middle school. Even though they never exchanged words, Aoba recalls Kota as the social butterfly with more friends than a pizza delivery guy has addresses. Surprise reunion? Anyone? Now, picture Kenshin's gym, where the once pudgy and unathletic Kota is hitting pads like a possessed ninja. Forget pudgy, he's now carved from stone. Kenshin and his dad are so impressed they're considering stopping the fight early if things get too intense. Did I mention Kato's transformation? Got him. It's like he went from couch potato to Marvel superhero overnight. Lo and behold, the day of reckoning has finally arrived, marked by the grand gym meet between Shark Gym and the formidable Kenshin's stronghold. The journey to Kenshin's gym was a cocktail of nerves and anticipation for Aoba, who bombarded Iwase with queries about the upcoming battle. Will everything be alright? Would he survive the ring of fire unscathed? Iwase, with the calming demeanor of a Zen master, reassured Aoba that they've done all they could in the limited time, so at least for the most part, Aoba should be fine. Aoba, however, had a secret weapon in his arsenal, a pair of shorts gifted by none other than Iwase. The sheer joy of receiving a present from a friend bubbled within him, leading to a public display of short-induced glee. Iwase, not one for public spectacles, urged him to tuck it away, but Kiwa, the eternal motivator, chimed in. Today was not just about winning or losing, it was a showcase of skills. A chance for amateurs to get a shot of motivation. And let's face it, expecting Aoba. With a mere week of training, a clinched victory was as likely as finding a unicorn in your backyard. So, why not revel in the moment and let the punches fly? However, as they reached the site and dojo, their jaws collectively dropped at the sight of cameras capturing every move. Yasuo, the mastermind behind the impromptu media coverage, apologized to Kiwa for the surprise cameras. It turned out this event was going live online, and Yasuo, with the finesse of a carnival barker, boasted about Kenshin being the focus of a show called Star Youth. Kiwa, though internally cringing, had to roll with the punches. The Shark Gym squad found themselves ushered into changing rooms where Aoba, now sporting his cherished shorts, radiated happiness. But the real shocker awaited Aoba as he scanned the room for Kota, expecting the same laid-back guy from middle school. To his disbelief, Kota had undergone a transformation that would make Cinderella jealous. With biceps like boulders and a physique that screamed dedication, Kota was a rookie powerhouse. Even Iwase, the voice of reason, recognized trouble when he saw it. Aoba was about to face a guy with muscles that looked like they had their own gym membership. In the midst of Aoba's baffled stare, Kota failed to recognize his former classmate. Aoba spilled the beans about their middle school connection, reminiscing about Kota and his lively group of friends. But in the present, Kota had little memory of his pudgy past and was more concerned with keeping that chapter closed. High school had been his redemption story, and he proudly flaunted the results of his physical overhaul. The spoiled rich kid didn't hold back, commenting on Aoba's trashy shorts and offering to buy him a new pair, of course, courtesy from the steakhouse. Aoba, however, wasn't about to take that insult lying down. With a glare that could make Medusa blink, he sent Kota into a retreat. Enter Kenshin, stage left. The MMA prodigy, now discovering Aoba's affiliation with Shark Gym, wondered if Aoba joined just to throw fists at him. Aoba, with a slight grin, confirmed that it was indeed part of the plan. Kenshin, ever the instigator, asked about Aoba's connection with Kota and went on to mock him for being a ninja in a past life, as no one seemed to remember him. But Aoba, ever the diplomat, stepped in to quell the brewing storm. Aoba clarified that he joined Shark Gym of his own accord and there was no conspiracy afoot. Kenshin, still baffled, got whisked away by the media for an interview, leaving Iwase to vent his frustration. According to Iwase, Aoba and Kenshin couldn't possibly be friends, as Kenshin didn't even remember Aoba from their shared history. Aoba, though, took this as a compliment and thanked Iwase for the observation. After all, Kenshin may have forgotten, but Aoba had a plan brewing. As Aoba spilled the tea on his middle school days, he painted a vivid picture of his absenteeism and drama-watching escapades. Kota, on the other hand, had been the popular kid, the card distributor, and the treat provider. Iwase, detecting a hint of wealth-flaunting in Kota's past antics, couldn't help but roll his eyes. Aoba, unfazed, appreciated Kota's proactive approach, even though Kota didn't remember him. But this revelation fueled Aoba's determination. He vowed to etch himself into Kota's memory for good. Aoba's expression shifted from cheerful to downright menacing, sending a shiver down Iwase's spine. Kiwa, the silent eavesdropper, chimed in with approval. Aoba had to win, not just for himself, but to put Kenshin's gym down from their high horse. At least in Takiwa's eyes, the Seitan dojo is filled with guys who look down on other fighters, only because they have a gym that is a bit famous. And so, the stage was set for the epic showdown. Cameras rolling, tension mounting. Takiwa, annoyed by Yasuo's camera stunt, was now more determined than ever to teach Seitan dojo a lesson. Aoba, Iwase, and the Shark Gym rookies were poised for battle, ready to unleash a storm upon their unsuspecting opponents. The curtain was about to rise on the first gym meet of Aoba's life, and the air crackled with anticipation. And so the grand spectacle kicks off, the opening act setting the stage for the amateur warriors to showcase their skills. Takiwa, with the enthusiasm of a seasoned ringmaster, takes center stage to enlighten the students on the subtle art of submissions and locking techniques. Yet, all eyes seem to be glued to Kenshin, who, like a maestro, orchestrates symphonies on the pads, stealing the spotlight effortlessly. Even the media, seduced by Kenshin's charisma, directs their attention to the prodigy, leaving Takiwa both impressed and slightly miffed at the overshadowing. As the opening act takes its final bow, the much-anticipated 3 versus 3 amateur practice match is ready to unfold. Aoba, the chosen one from Shark Gym, gears up for the inaugural bout. Takiwa, the coach with a knack for motivation, throws Aoba a pep talk, urging him to stick with the plan. Not that Aoba has many options but to follow the master plan. Iwase, from the sidelines, can't help but notice Kota's obvious advantage despite being an amateur with a similar weight. Kota's trained physique is a red flag for Iwase, who begins to question whether his friend will make it out of the ring alive or not. Before the match commences, the interviewers beckon the fighters for their share of the spotlight. Aoba, gripped by stage fright, freezes, but the interviewer has eyes only for Kota. The interview becomes a solo act, leaving Aoba on the sidelines. As the interview concludes, Iwase, sensing Aoba's nerves, offers a word of caution, advising him not to push himself too hard. Finally, the bell rings, signaling the beginning of Aoba's trial by fire. Iwase, ever the concerned commentator, vents his worries to Takiwa about Aoba's disadvantage. Takiwa, in his Zen Master moment, views it as a valuable experience for Aoba, reminiscing about his own limited time in the ring despite being a pro. In the ring, Kota unleashes a barrage of punches, coming in hot like a freight train. Aoba, attempting to dodge the initial onslaught, finds himself cornered, a victim to the relentless pummeling. Iwase, watching from the sidelines, feels the weight of the opponent's strength and speed, recognizing it as a challenge beyond Aoba's current capabilities. He advises Aoba to dodge instead of blocking, a crucial piece of advice that Takiwa echoes, suggesting an uppercut or a lid kick. However, the oversight lies in the fact that Aoba, in all his greenness, only embarked on this journey a week ago. He doesn't know what on earth Takiwa is talking about, not to mention, his footwork isn't polished enough for the dance, and the close quarters spell disaster for executing his signature move, the straight punch. Iwase decides that if Aoba takes a heavy hit, he'll throw in the towel, believing that miracles, while surprising, don't perform themselves. In a plot twist, Kenshin urges Kota to finish the fight and showcase his transformation from the chubby kid he once was. The jab at his pass sends a surge of determination through Kota, prompting a thunderous uppercut. Iwase, anticipating the end, is ready to concede defeat, but Takiwa intervenes, declaring the match is not over. Kota, on the other hand, is already reveling in his apparent victory. He proclaims a newfound identity, no longer the lavish spender, but a man reborn. In any ordinary amateur bout, a punch like that would floor any contender, but Aoba is no ordinary contender. Despite being brought to his knees, Aoba unleashes a punch at Kota's unsuspecting chin. Iwase, jaw on the floor, realizes Aoba's genius strategy. Kneeling down provides the perfect space to land a clean, straight punch even in the corner. Meanwhile, Aoba, undeterred, gazes at his opponent like a lion eyeing its prey, ready for the next round in this unexpected underdog tale. With the resounding punch, Kota crashes to the canvas as a picture of astonishment is etched across his face, whereas Iwase goes into full-on freak-out mode, hyped at what he just witnessed. Takiwa, on the other hand, calmly points out that Kota left himself wide open after that ambitious uppercut. Aoba, seizing the opportunity, defended and counterattacked. However, Takiwa tempers the excitement, noting that while it was a good punch, it lacked the weight to keep Kota down. The easy fall meant an easy rise, and true to form, Kota gets back on his feet. As Kota rises, Aoba readies himself for the next chapter in this impromptu saga. Amidst the chaos, Kota experiences a sudden blast from the past. He remembers Aoba from their school days. Turns out, Aoba's frequent absences were due to asthma, and he often found solace in solitude. Kota, in a rare act of compassion, invited Aoba into his circle of friends with the universal language of high school friendship, a deck of cards. However, Aoba, with a heart full of independence, declined the offer. Unfazed, Kota moved on, only to discover his supposed friends talking behind his back at the end of middle school. Their interest in him was a mere guise for his family's wealth. Fueled by betrayal, Kota set out to prove himself at his new school and reclaim his identity. And the only way to do so is to win. In the pursuit of self-redemption, Kota launches into a tackle, bringing Aoba down. Iwase and Tokiwa, witnessing the unfolding drama, share a moment of trepidation. Iwase discloses Aoba's limited defense against takedowns, lacking knowledge of sweeping or scrambling, skills that don't magically materialize in a week. Aoba's opponent, clearly the physical superior, has the upper hand. Yet, Kota is driven by a burning desire to win, propelled by the need to establish himself. The ground and pound commences as Kota seizes Aoba's hand, aiming to rain down blows. Iwase, quick on his feet, instructs Aoba to hold on to Kota, staying close to him until the referee intervenes. However, Aoba has a different game plan. He's not just in it to barely get by. He's here to etch himself into Kota's memory by winning. In a flashback, we revisit the day Tokiwa reluctantly taught Aoba sweeping techniques, spurred on by relentless nagging. Despite the seeming futility, Iwase breaks down the technique, and Aoba, ever grateful, meticulously jots it down repeatedly until it's etched into his mind. Over and over and over again. Now in the ring, Aoba executes the sweeping technique flawlessly. With lightning speed, he shifts the dynamics, moving from the bottom to the top position, gaining the coveted mount. All the while, Aoba's singular focus is on ensuring Kota remembers him, not just as an opponent, but as someone with words to be remembered. The crowd, a mix of anxiety and anticipation, urges Aoba to unleash his full arsenal. Aoba, perched atop his opponent, has more than victory on his mind. He's poised to deliver a message that will echo far beyond the ring. Aoba then begins to unleash a storm of punches, turning the tables on Kota. It was like a rain of fists, and Iwase from the sidelines was all, "Keep the pressure. Buddy, don't stop the punches." But, hold up, rookie mistake alert. You can only keep throwing punches if the person on the receiving end is guarding. If the victim curls up like an armadillo, trouble's knocking. Plus, Kota's brawny arms were playing gatekeeper, not letting our puny protagonist overpower him, neither in strength nor in technique. Yet, Kota wasn't waving the white flag. Even with Aoba in the mount position, Kota was grinning like he just discovered a buffet. Still, if Aoba kept dishing out the one-sided beatdown, the ref was bound to intervene and call it quits. So, our cunning Aoba, spotting his chance when he saw Aoba getting tired and gasping for air, executed a masterful counter move. Out of nowhere, he bridged, sending Aoba flying and freeing himself from the situation. But hold on, it wasn't over. He managed to get on top of Aoba once more. Yet, all of his efforts ended with Aoba clinging like a cola and recalling every move he learned that day. Slow and steady, he followed Iwase's advice, sweeping his opponent yet again. Witnessing this, Iwase was left dumbfounded. Aoba had actually memorized everything from just one training session. Tokiwa jumped in, asking if Iwase was the maestro behind Aoba's hip-throw brilliance. This was a battle of contrasts. Aoba, the brainiac with zero physical prowess, duking it out with the knowledge he gained in a mere week. Kota, on the other hand, was flexing his muscles, relying solely on his built-up power. Though both were lacking in various ways, they sported grins like they were on a roller coaster rather than in a ring. Back in the squared circle, Kota maneuvered to get on top of Aoba once again, repeating the clinching routine. Iwase was cheering, thinking his friend could still turn the tide. Spoiler alert, Aoba was running on fumes. His gas tank was empty, and it was time to prepare for the towel toss. Kota pushed, Aoba flattened, and it was clear Aoba had hit the wall. Iwase reluctantly threw in the towel, conceding defeat, and Kota emerged as the victor. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. The taste of victory left a sour note in Kota's mouth. He took more hits than a piñata at a kid's party and even kissed the canvas. But still, despite the rocky journey, he still emerged victorious. With the taste of triumph lingering, he envisioned climbing higher in the world. shedding his past like a snake sheds its skin. He extended a hand to Aoba, thanking him for the bout, but Aoba, with a quiet air of frustration, wasn't exactly thrilled. Turns out, he had more on his mind than just the fight. Aoba spilled the beans, confessing that during middle school, he yearned to be Kota's friend. The Kota who dished out cards and treats like it was Halloween every day. Kota, taking this as an insult, saw his past as a horror show. He suffered because people milked him for his money, and he was determined to break free from that spoiled kid stereotype. Aoba, however, countered, stating that it was they who needed to change. They took advantage of Kota's kindness, and Aoba just wanted to be a genuine friend. Hence, he refused the deck of cards back then. This revelation leaves Kota perplexed. Why would Aoba want to be buds without the financial perks? Aoba dropped the truth bomb that if you can't make friends without money, you lack self-confidence and think too low of yourself. He admired Kota's fearless pursuit of friendship, giving away everything just to connect. With that bombshell, Aoba made his exit, and just when the dust settled, Kenshin strutted in to congratulate Kota on his win, escorting him off stage. Kota, in a moment of contemplation, marveled at how pleasantly weird Aoba truly was. And so the saga continues, the next bouts kick off, and all the while, Aoba is still nursing a bit of a grudge for not clinching that victory against Kota. Seeing Aoba's lingering frustration, Tokiwa, with all the finesse of a motivational speaker, calls out to him, pointing out that it was a darn good match, especially considering it was Aoba's first time in the ring. Those comforting words do a little dance on Aoba's heartstrings, but hold your horses, because before you can say left hook, the whole event wraps up. The result? The second dojo walks away with a clean sweep victory in every match. Tokiwa, with his usual flair for dramatic mood swings, goes from celebratory to angry demon real quick, throwing shade at his rookies. Oh, and let's not forget the lecture he unleashes. Even though the opponents were MMA rookies, they had years of experience in other combat sports. Realizing he's been completely bamboozled, Tokiwa orders his crew to retreat, tossing a reminder to Yasuo about the wrongs he's committed. Yet, the show director isn't satisfied. For him, things ended a bit flat, sans the fireworks. It would have been better with some rivalry spice, heating things up and leaving the audience on the edge of their seats. Plus, even if they threw in all the footage of Kenshin hitting pads, it wouldn't stretch long enough for an hour. So he turns to Yasuo, asking if there's anything interesting left to showcase. Anything, even if it's a typical Akasawa family meal. Yasuo, being the wise man that he is, immediately declines, fearing the wrath of his wife if he allows such a thing. Suddenly, Kenshin, the genius of the moment, comes up with an idea. He reassures the director not to worry and strolls over to the still fuming Tokiwa, who's on the verge of exploding. There, with the enthusiasm of a puppy, Kenshin proposes a small spar to the enraged Tokiwa. Hearing this, Tokiwa hits his limit. Intense pressure and a menacing expression take over as he questions if Kenshin is really talking to him. The tables have turned, but this intense bloodthirst is precisely what the director was hoping for. He turns to the cameraman, demanding to know more about this guy. The cameraman spills the beans. Tokiwa might not be a celebrity, but he's a seasoned pro fighter. Ah, not as popular, they say, but seasoned nonetheless. The other members of the Shark Gym try to cool the flames. Seniors Kiyumi and Zanan suggest they call it a day, noting Tokiwa hasn't been practicing much lately and might not be in the best condition. Tokiwa, ever defiant, claims Tigers need no practice. Seeing this unfold, Aoba, initially psyched about the potential showdown, realizes the fight might not actually happen. It wouldn't do wonders for the gym's image if their fearless leader ended up getting his butt handed to him. But that's not how Iwase sees it. In the chaos, enraged Tokiwa starts hurling insults at Kenshin and the site and dojo, revving everyone up. Iwase explains that Tokiwa is a natural-born heel, win or lose. He always makes the crowd go wild. Because of his bad public image, people rarely flock to their shady-looking gym, and even those who do often end up quitting. As they speak, the Satan students are eyeing Tokiwa with bloodlust. Yet, amidst all this chaos, Aoba, with his peculiar way of thinking, finds it all pretty cool. Suddenly, a snippet of Iwase's words echoes in his mind, win or lose. Does that mean there's a chance Tokiwa might actually lose? Well, perhaps only in the wild dreams of the Satan students. You see, Tokiwa is a powerhouse, and the battle is now drawing near. The director, sensing the seriousness in the air, also catches the hype, and so the plot thickens. In no time, both fighters step into the ring, and Takiwa. Fully embracing his villain character, he gives the director the green light to broadcast the entire spectacle, confident he might just school Kenshin. From the sidelines, Iwase observes that Takiwa has switched to full provocation mode. Yet, Aoba is about to witness the real deal, a glimpse of what Takiwa is truly capable of. As long as Takiwa doesn't spout any more nonsense, this is gearing up to be an entertaining bout. On the other side of the ropes, Yasuo is priming his golden child, advising him to stay alert despite this supposedly being a light, fun spar. Although Takiwa is currently on hiatus from matches for disrespecting the CEO of Boost, he still commands respect as a pro among pros. Kenshin, however, is already in the know. In fact, he's seen Takiwa's antics countless times on YouTube. At last, Kenshin dons his game face, anticipating a good match. The fighters square off, Kenshin gearing up to charge in, while Takiwa surprises everyone by adopting a no-guard stance. Aoba, baffled, questions if this is allowed. It's a completely different style from when he tangled with Aoba. Iwase, ever the commentator, explains that this is Takiwa's special stance, allowing him to see every move of his opponent. As Kenshin charges in, Takiwa dodges effortlessly and counters with a barrage that barely misses the mark. Feeling the breeze of those near misses, Kenshin notes the unconventional angles of Takiwa's punches, making them tricky to read and dodge. Not to mention the constant change in stances disrupts his sense of distance and timing. But far from being discouraged, Kenshin's eyes gleam with excitement. He dives in for another round, and Takiwa notices Kenshin's punches becoming cleaner and sharper. Despite Kenshin's already top-class power, Takiwa spots an opening and goes in for a counter. However, Kenshin reads his movements and begins understanding Takiwa's pattern after just a brief encounter, and manages a successful counter. Even though Takiwa dodges, onlookers notice he's no longer playing around. Kenshin's skill has forced the notorious Takiwa to get serious. Nevertheless, despite the excitement, Kenshin's moves are textbook, making it easy for a veteran like Takiwa to avoid them. He plans to bait Kenshin into attacking and slip at the last second for a devastating counter. But, as always, it's not that simple. Out of the blue, Kenshin adjusts his punch at the last moment, changing its trajectory to where Takiwa is headed. The result? A clean hit that sends Takiwa reeling in shock. It dawns on him that messing around will only turn him into Kenshin's punching bag. Hyped up even more, Takiwa readies himself. Kenshin senses a change in his eyes, realizing Takiwa still has more to offer. Takiwa lunges in for a left hook, and Kenshin prepares to counter, only to notice something unusual. When did Takiwa switch to his southpaw stance? Before Kenshin can process this, Takiwa springs into action, executing the knee-tap takedown with precision. Witnessing this, Iwase proclaims that the match is nearing its end. Apparently, this takedown has the foundations of judo's technique, and as long as you can get into the correct position, you're sure to take down their opponent. Even Takiwa believes this is perhaps the end for his foe. However, Kenshin has other ideas in mind. Not wanting to end this fight so quickly, he admirably stands upright, using his back leg to ground himself and stay standing. Even though he gets pushed back, Takiwa is ultimately unable to make Kenshin fall, leaving everyone watching flabbergasted. Even Takiwa is surprised and wonders just what kind of flexibility and strength this young lad in front of him has. Slowly but surely, Kenshin gets out of Takiwa's clutches, thinking about just how close it really became. But facing a stronger opponent, he just gets more and more excited. While proclaiming, "This is fun," the duo exchange a couple of blows, and Kenshin is able to land a straight right directly on Takiwa's face, making him more and more pissed. While the Seitan Dojo kids cheer Kenshin on, the Shark Gym people are left watching in amazement. This inexperienced boy was able to counter Takiwa's attack. Not only that, Takiwa, who has knocked out many of his pro opponents, has impressive striking abilities, but it appears as though Kenshin has him beaten in this aspect. There's Zamanev that Takiwa is primarily a striker, and it hasn't been long since he rounded his game. Apparently, he busted his hand a while back, and during his recovery, he trained hard in jiu-jitsu and Dishin. After he was once dominated by a wrestler, he trained wrestling with dedication. And that is the beauty of this game. If your opponent has you beaten in one aspect, you should change your game plan and fight him another way, which is exactly what Takiwa does. Realizing the gap in their striking, he goes in for a single-leg takedown. But even this proves to be useless. As he grabs onto Kenshin's leg, he realizes that even with all his might, he is unable to move, and Kenshin is able to break free from his clutches once again. Inside Tokiwa's mind, he panics over how his opponent is so talented. His hits are heavy, and his reactions are fast, rendering Tokiwa unable to take him down no matter how many different things he tries. Iwase comments on how Kenshin is taking it like a champ, even though Tokiwa's takedown skills are on par with that of a wrestler or a jiu-jitsu master. On the other hand, Yasuo doesn't seem all that surprised. To him, Kenshin's striking sense is the best in the world. As long as his son stays on his feet, he will win no matter what, and in order to ensure that, Yasuo had previously called for wrestlers and grapplers so Kenshin could understand and practice their techniques thoroughly, and that is Kenshin, a man who cannot be toppled down. Meanwhile, the Shark Gym is also brought to the same conclusion. All the while, Aoba reveals that he has no idea what on earth the others are rambling about. But one thing he has understood is that Kenshin really doesn't want to be taken down. It is evident that he is trying everything to stay on his feet, meaning he wants to fight while standing. This makes Aoba remember when Iwase taught him some takedown defense. There, Iwase lamented that Aoba is not yet ready for submissions and such, claiming that it is something one learns gradually. Not to mention, as per Iwase and Tokiwa, it's one of the most frustrating things to learn. In order to learn, you have to get submitted by your opponent as well, hence people who hate to lose quit it pretty soon. And what do you know? Kenshin fits the bill for this perfectly. All of a sudden, Tokiwa's words pop into his head. Once you find a weakness, you attack it. That is MMA. All of this brings Aoba to only one conclusion: to beat Kenshin, he has to master the techniques known as submissions. Back in the ring, Tokiwa also understands this and gets on his back, telling Kenshin to come over and bring it. Regardless, the 5 minutes are now up, and the spar comes to an end with no clear victor. As the fight comes to an end, both fighters shake hands, and Kenshin thanks Tokiwa for this lovely match. There, Tokiwa, thinking he needs to practice seriously, tells Kenshin he didn't really go all out, making him embarrassed. On the other hand, inside his mind, he is really happy. Even though it was a close call and Tokiwa read his counters, he just had so much fun. He realizes that sparring with higher-ranked people is where all the excitement lies, commenting on how he still has an adrenaline rush throughout his body. Meanwhile, Yasuo is impressed at how Kenshin was able to hold his own against such a fearsome opponent. But still, he refuses to compliment his son. Ever since the age of 3, Kenshin showed exceptional striking prowess. Yasuo realized early on that his son is gifted at fighting, and if that is the case, how far will he be able to go in MMA? At least to Yasuo, Kenshin has the capacity to rule the entire world of MMA. Meanwhile, Aoba is left with a game plan in mind. He asks Iwase what it will take to bring Kenshin down. To him, it's evident that Kenshin is very desperate to prevent being toppled over. This might mean if Kenshin is forced to the ground, he will be rendered useless. Even though this might not be true, the matter of fact is a novice like Aoba needs to take the game to the ground against Kenshin in order to have a chance at victory. Hearing this, Iwase is left stunned. Even though everyone is raving about Kenshin's strength, here's Aoba already thinking of a way to bring him down. As such, he asks if Aoba wants to try taking Kenshin to the ground, despite Tokiwa trying and failing. Kenshin's hips are just too strong, but in Aoba's eyes, he possesses striking abilities since he managed to hit Kota with that low straight punch. However, Tokiwa chimes in as well. He announces that Iwase is wrong. Aoba would be good at submission tactics. In his experienced eyes, Aoba purposefully created distance during his match, and he even managed to learn how to escape the mount position in just a week. Guys like him, who think rationally and keep on grinding, are best suited for submission. Not to mention how much Aoba's choke sucked when he was trying to deliver ground and pound to Kota. As such, he questions if Aoba really thinks he can tap Kenshin out if he gets him in a submission. To this, Aoba, after a moment of thought, confidently replies that he is sure of it, making Tokiwa impressed. He claims that even against a strong opponent, there are multiple ways to take them down if you can get past how tough they appear. Today was just a friendly spar, and neither of them attempted setups that might lead to serious injuries, though Kenshin probably did the same as well. To this, Iwase mentions that to him. It looked like Tokiwa was fighting seriously, but trying to save face. Tokiwa claims he wasn't really. Regardless, the event finally comes to an end. Everyone thanks the others for their participation, and they all head on their way. As they leave, Aoba realizes something. Up until now, He just wanted to punch Kenshin somewhere sometime, but now, after going to the gym, fighting Kota, and watching Tokiwa and Kenshin spar, he's come to understand that his goal is unsatisfactory. And what does he want to do now, you ask? Well, he wants to bring Kenshin down in a fair fight in front of the entire world. However, even Aoba knows he is not even a match for Kenshin at this stage, and that's why right now, he wouldn't even be an extra in Kenshin's story. All of a sudden, Kenshin comes running in Aoba's direction, but almost ignoring him. He rushes to Tokiwa's side, thanking him again for the spar since he learned a lot. On the other hand, Aoba gazes at him with intense bloodlust, announcing that there is no need for a declaration of war. He will just devote himself to taking Kenshin down. Seeing this gaze, Tokiwa also warns Kenshin, telling him that if he continues looking ahead only, something from underneath his feet might trip him. And this surprises Kenshin. How on earth did Tokiwa know he once fell into a ditch while watching the airplanes in the sky? Of course, that wasn't what Tokiwa was talking about. Anyway, later on at the gym, Tokiwa tells Aoba that, in order to submit Kenshin, he will need to at least first stand on the same stage as him. For this, he makes their current target reach that stage. He pulls out a poster, telling Aoba that he will be able to rush to the gateway of pros. That is if he wins this. The following day, Aoba gets ready for school and heads out in the morning. Suddenly, his mom calls out to him, telling him to wait. She wants to make sure Aoba is carrying his inhaler and stays safe. Apparently, even though he's not experiencing any symptoms of his illness, his mom doesn't want to be complacent about the necessary precautions in case things go badly. There, his little sister also notices how her brother is nagged every day. Anyways, his mom asks if Aoba plans on going to the gym today as well, and he confirms this, leading to her telling him not to overdo it. The truth is that Aoba is keeping a secret. If he tells his mom that he's doing MMA, she is sure to freak out, and hence, he has kept this little detail to himself. Anyway, after the lecture, he goes to put on his shoes, where his little sister tries to comfort her brother, wishing that their mother would nag him in moderation. But there is no helping it, I guess. Aoba's body is really weak, and so she is bound to get worried. That is exactly why he tries all he can just to get her somewhat reassured. This talk makes the little sister understand how her brother really is messed up in the head. Therefore, he confirms this, making a creepy grin while he does so. On the other hand, Iwase is at his house, preparing for school as well. There, his older sister is seen to be awake, which is a surprise to him. However, it looks like she is instead about to go to bed. All of a sudden, she asks if Iwase went to Kenshin's gym recently and demands he take her there next time. What's more, their mother also happens to be a big Kenshin supporter. His sister even nags him to make friends with Kenshin and bring him home one day. And so, they let him off, telling him to do his best to befriend Kenshin. This brings us to school where, at lunch, Iwase complains about how his sisters want to take a picture with Kenshin and upload it on social media for clout. He reveals that Kenshin won the previous year's MMA Koshien and became famous overnight. Moreover, he now even has a pro contract signed with Boost. As such, he asks Aoba if he really plans on taking part in the next MMA Koshien, and he announces that he will definitely participate and fight. Iwase explains that this event is held twice a year and is the biggest competition for high schoolers. This event hosted by Boost is where all amateurs aiming to go pro gather, and since Aoba is new to the MMA world, he is afraid something unfortunate might happen. Regardless, he isn't Aoba's guardian and can't really stop him. There, Aoba also adamantly claims that if he is to accomplish his goal, the way is for him to fight at the Koshien, and Iwase seconds this. However, the preliminary rounds for this event will be held in January, and seeing as it is September, it only gives Aoba 4 months to get ready. Even though he will not stop him, one thing is certain, Aoba will meet his end if he shows up like how he is now. And so, he will have to build himself an MMA physique. Later at the gym, Aoba's physical training begins and he does all kinds of endurance training. However, he is left drained by the end of it. There, Iwase tells him that if he works on his body, the chance of Aoba getting injured will be reduced, and as such, training hard and eating right should be Aoba's top priority. Although this is a grueling challenge, there is no way to avoid it, and eventually, the results of Aoba's hard work will pay off. Meanwhile, while Iwase rambles on with his lecture, one of the seniors murmurs in the background, commenting on how high and mighty Iwase is acting despite his slacking off recently. On top of all this, the truth of the matter is that in order to choke or submit an opponent, Aoba will need strength. Finally, it's now time for Aoba to have his first grappling experience. There, Iwase remembers something. Because this is Aoba's first time grappling, it is the first time he will meet a certain someone. And speaking of the devil, an average-looking salaryman comes into the gym, talking to himself. This guy begins getting ready for sparring. All the while, he is seen cursing out his fellow coworkers and his boss. With a menacing look on his face, he repeatedly announces that he will kill them all. Meanwhile, Iwase warns Aoba to be on his guard, telling him that practice becomes hell whenever this guy arrives, so it would be best to prepare themselves. Blink and behold, 10 days have vanished since Aoba took his plunge into the wild world of grappling, a realm both wondrous and utterly draining. As he sprawls on the mat, contemplating life's choices, a stark realization dawns upon him like a slap from a wet noodle. Mastering ground techniques to outsmart Kenshin was, in hindsight, a touch too naive. From his prone position, Aoba observes Iwase, his grappling companion, being flown around like a ragdoll by the relentless salaryman, Amachi. Flashback to day 1, and Iwase had imparted the wisdom of 2 ground technique titans, chokeholds and submissions. Demonstrations ensued with Aoba cast as the unwilling guinea pig. Iwase's advice for the MMA Koshien was clear: ground techniques were the secret sauce. But the catch: Aoba had to wrap his head around an encyclopedia's worth of basics, a daunting task for even the sharpest minds. The struggle was real. As the grappling session kicks off, Amachi, the scolding virtuoso, approaches Iwase with a proposition: a fight to prove himself, aiming for an 18 submission day. In the blink of an eye, Amachi racks up 7 taps from Iwase, declaring a brief intermission before round 2. Enter Aoba, ever the optimist, throwing his hat into the ring, declaring his intent to spar with Amachi. The outcome: a predictable slaughter. In a mere 5 minutes, Aoba succumbs to the dreaded techniques and taps out 15 times, providing Amachi with a workout less intense than a Zumba class. From that day forth, both Aoba and Iwase found themselves on the receiving end of Amachi's ground mastery, each session akin to a crash course in pain. Amidst the agony, Aoba clings to hope like a drowning man clutching a lifebuoy. He envisions a future where, against all odds, they manage to conquer Amachi just once, unlocking the gateway to victory in the upcoming competition. Iwase, though, is the voice of reason. Beating Amachi might just be wishful thinking. Surveying the gym's landscape, Aoba also notices his fellow practitioners effortlessly outclassing him in the art of ground warfare. The thought lingers: rolling with the seasoned pros won't pave the way for his improvement. Desperation sets in, and he ponders if there's anyone else he can practice with. And then, a glimmer of familiarity outside the gym catches his eye. None other than Kota, his former opponent, making a surprise appearance.